My name is Daniel Guzman. I'm an ER physician at Cook Children's for the last 21 years. I started that I started at Cook Children's back in 2003 with just a hope to helping as many kids as I could through our ER and make a difference. That turned into a passion for firearm injury as we saw what we saw through the ER and the number of kids that were coming through our ER injured or dying as a result of firearm injuries. It struck a chord in me, and it changed something about who I was and why I was really there at Cook Children's. I think there was a bigger need for me to do something bigger and be a voice for those families, for those kids that are coming into our ER and experiencing such a horrible loss or just a horrible experience. And so I think my biggest concern was, my biggest passion was, what can I do to make a difference? And I think for me, that's been the biggest thing. How can I make a difference? How can I help someone navigate the world of firearms? We all feel like we know what we are doing when we have a firearm in our hands, but it's not always the case. And so, and especially our children, we put so much trust in our kids to be able to do the right thing at the right time. And sometimes that trust is misplaced, not because they're bad kids, but because they're cognitively just not and developmentally not ready to make some of these choices. And so my biggest goal is to help families navigate that and understand how they can be safer at home. What can they do to make sure that they don't become a statistic and they don't have to deal with these injuries and deaths. And so it's something that, as the years have gone by, we're seeing more and more guns out in our community. And so even if you don't own a firearm, your child probably goes somewhere or knows someone who owns a firearm. And so it's being prepared for that situation, helping our children prepare for that. And so that's what Aim for Safety is. It's an initiative to help reduce the number of firearm injuries in our city, and most definitely with our children, because that's the population that we see. But again, it doesn't matter who it is. It can go across all lines, whether they're children, teenagers, and adults. We can be safer with our firearms, and that's what we do. We try to help them navigate that world, understand how they can do that better. We don't claim to know everything, but we know that we can make a difference. Given that I own a firearm, I have children at home, and I work in a place that we see all these injuries. And I think that can help bridge the gap for some of these families and understand that, gosh, I'm not here to tell you about whether or not you should own a gun or not. I'm here to help you just be safer with a gun at home. The turning point for me was in 2017. I took care of a child, a 4-year-old male who was brought in after being shot. And for some reason, that was the day that it changed my life. We go through these situations every single day in the ER. And some, you get upset, you get sad, but ultimately it's about making a difference. And so that situation that day, to see the pain in a family's eyes and for them to stand there and try to cope with understanding why it happened, made me decide to do something about it. And that's where it all started. So there's a lot of things that parents can do to help them, help keep their children from becoming victims. I think one is understanding the risk that they have at home. We all feel that, again, we can trust our children to be able to make the right decision, but we want to be able to have a backstop for them to allow them to make mistakes, but not lethal mistakes. And so I think that's really important to understand that no matter, even as a parent myself or as a kid growing up, I never did everything my parents told me to do. You always kind of rode the line a little bit because you wanted to be able to explore and you're trying to gain your own freedom. And so we shouldn't expect that any different from our kids, right? So they're going to do the same thing. They're going to explore, they're curious. But what we can do as parents is kind of help shield them from some of these dangers that are in and around our homes. And the firearm is one of those big ones. There's no coming back from something like that if it happens to you or your family. And so I think being able to make sure that we're storing our firearms properly, keeping them in a place where our kids can't access them, make sure that the ammunition and the gun is separate, are really great starting points. And that can make a huge difference in whether or not you're seeing me in the ER.